Hello and welcome to Safe and Sound Week. The format this year is a little bit different than what we have done in years past just because of everything going on. We decided that it would be best to do an all-online, all-virtual Safe and Sound Week. And what that means for you is that, as I mentioned in my email, we will have two videos. The video that we're going through today, and the quiz and the attendance sheet. You have to do this by Wednesday. And then on Wednesday, we'll have our second video, and the attendance sheet and the quiz for that are going to be due on Friday. So as I said in my initial introductory video, or introductory email, this is it's heavily recommended, and if we get at least 75% of the company, then we will be able to get those gift cards and use that raffle. And then if we get at least 90%, then everybody can get donuts on the company. So make sure you take the quizzes and make sure you try your best, because if you get all the answers right, you're entered to win a $200 gift card. Alright, so moving on. Alright, this is our topic for the day. We are looking at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and we are looking at the National Consensus for Fatal Occupational Injuries in 2018. So just a couple things to make note of. It's important to remember and to keep in mind that we are looking at the national numbers from 2018, not just our specific industry. The government takes some time to compile all of the census information, which is why in 2020 we're looking at 2018. Now in November of this year, we will have the 2019 data. And a lot of the stuff that we're going to see today, if not all of it, is going to be a lagging indicator. And those can be helpful, but we want to start to transition towards leading indicators. So while this is a lagging indicator PowerPoint and video, we still need to understand, we can't ignore the lagging indicators. We can't ignore this information. All right, so moving on, the purpose of this is just to inform you guys. It's to bring awareness to these issues that have the ability, to impact our company, coworkers, your friends, either inside or outside of work. And I really want to focus on have the ability to impact our company, because as of now, none of the things that we're going to talk about in this currently impact us. It's still relevant, and we need to start talking about it still, but it's not necessarily an issue at this time. All right, so after this, you should be able to identify the top causes of death in the workplace, identify ways to control risk and lower it to an acceptable level, and then also become aware of the national issues that could hit very close to home in our company. And all I'm going to say is this. Make sure you're paying attention, because everything that I cover in this PowerPoint is subject to be on the quiz. Even though there's 5 questions, you only have to answer 3. Some of these answers that I talk about, they're very easy to answer, and they are on the quiz. So make sure you pay attention to everything and take the quiz. I would recommend taking the quiz right after you watch this video. That way it's still fresh in your mind. Okay, so this slide here is just about the total number of fatalities. And all of these numbers are inclusive of the nationwide totals, not all that are just applicable to us as a company. And we're going to be breaking these down to what is applicable to us in later slides, but for now, I just wanted to use this as a general reference and a general starting point. As you can see, let's take my cursor, hopefully it's highlighted, you can see it kind of gradually goes up, a brief dip in 2017, and then back up in 2018. And just for what impacts us, if you look up top here at the key, see the blue dot is a total number of deaths. The red is self-employed. So anybody who is self-employed, working for themselves, doing landscaping, doing carpentry work, handyman work, things like that, they fall under the red. But then for us as a company, we fall under the blue. So when you look at what the blue is, let's look over here at wage and salary, we see all of our information that is applicable to us right here. So in 2018, companies similar to us had 4,178 deaths in the workplace or related to work. All right. All this does is, it's kind of hard to decipher this, but it's just a breakdown of the numbers for all the different age groups. The good thing is, you can see that age 55 and up, those deaths are declining, which is good. But ages 25 to 54 are increasing. Some of this is due to retirement and the entrance of younger generations into the workforce, and that's what they said. So with the generations that are retiring, baby boomers and everything, the numbers of employees in that age group are going down, and the numbers of the younger workers are going up. However, it's important to note that the bulk of our workforce is between 25 and 54. That makes up 56% of our current workforce, and that's an issue. That's something that we need to address. So, and I know that as we get older, we become more experienced with our work and potentially complacent as well, especially if you've never had an incident or an injury before. But no matter how old you are, no matter what job you're doing, we must remain engaged in safety, especially since over half of our workforce is in an age demographic of increasing work injuries. All right, so the following is a breakdown of what fatal injuries we are looking at. There's a bunch across the board, but we're just going to take a look at a couple. And all of these stats reflect scenarios or situations that could impact us if we do nothing to avoid them or to address them now. As I said, we currently don't have an issue with them, but I'd rather not have an issue ever and deal with them now. All right, so this is a chart detailing the causes of death, and each of these numbers, the different graph items in the columns are drilled down further. All of these deaths are an issue, but we're going to be looking at the transportation incidents here. We're going to be looking at violence and other injuries by persons or animals, and then exposure to harmful substances or environments. And note, I'm just focusing on these three issues because at the moment, we don't have the same level of protections in place as we do with our other programs or the other topics on this chart. The other ones, we have topics to address it, we've had trainings to address it, but the others are kind of just out there, and that's why I'm focusing on these three topics. All right, so transportation deaths. Breaking down that initial column here, right here, you can see this big red column. And these three columns make up that big red column. And the total number of deaths in this chart is 1,262. Everyone here drives a vehicle. And some drive company vehicles, some don't, but that's irrelevant. The fact is that everybody drives. One of the things that we want to do with our safety program, we've touched on it in the past, but it's something that's a goal of mine going forward, is to focus not just on workplace safety, but safety off the job as well. And we want to go above and beyond. That's why we work with two different consulting companies, our insurance company, and we're involved with the SHARP and pre-SHARP program. So part of that is, as I mentioned, emphasizing safety off the job just as much as on the job. And, these next few slides are supposed to shock you in a way, but it's mainly just to show you the data that brings light to the hazards that you're exposed to, whether on the job or off the job, that you probably never thought of before. And, of course, there's no better time than Safe and Sound Week. So this graph here, if we take a look back at this graph, this is the roadway incidents with motorized land vehicles, cars, trucks, things of that nature. And then when you look further at the labels, we can see that the roadway collision with other vehicles is the highest. Other objects other than a vehicle, that's going to be a telephone pole, a guardrail, things of that nature, and then a roadway non-collision incident. That's the smallest. The two that impact us the most are these first two columns here. And touching base on this slide, non-roadway incidents, parking lots, private drives. We have it's a private road that we maintain, even though it's in Collier Township, but then also we have a parking lot. So this would be something that is on a non-roadway that is privatized for our facility or any type of facility. And the total deaths in this chart is 225. Now, these are still transportation incidents, and as I said, they occur in parking lots, parking garages, and even inside of facilities. Depending on the size, we don't have any, we don't drive in our facility. If we do, it's a forklift, and that kind of borderlines a transportation incident, or if something would happen, it would be a caught in or crushed by type of incident. So the inside of the buildings don't really apply to us, but the other ones definitely do. So what do we want to do to control these types of deaths, or to kind of control it now before we have a workplace death or a non-workplace death from driving? How do we want to prevent that? Well, safe driving is the easiest and the best, and then defensive driving, using hands-free devices while driving, Bluetooth, CarPlay, things of that nature, telling Siri to call someone instead of pulling out your phone and calling. And then the main thing is no texting and driving, and this includes sending and reading emails, Teams messages, pulling out your phone to dial a phone number. Anytime you're taking your eyes off the road, we want to avoid that as much as possible, and you shouldn't really be doing it in general. But that's enough on that subject there. So the second topic is violence and other injuries by persons or animals. Animals can be a bit confusing, but the animals are it's inclusive of poisonous or venomous animals and insects, not just randomly attacking birds or dogs off the street. There's a reason snake bites, spider bites, things of that nature that you kind of wouldn't think about. But we're not focusing on the animals. We are focusing on the intentional injuries or unintentional injuries. So the first column, this graph is skewed a lot, and just in the first column there are 757 deaths. The middle is a concern as well, but I think there are probably 20 or 30 in that group, but I want to focus on this left column here. And what this boils down to from the intentional injury by person is just workplace violence and not much else. Workplace violence is becoming more prominent, or at least we're hearing about it more as it becomes more publicized with the news outlets, and it's a hard thing to prepare for. It is, but that's something that we want to start taking control of, having a program in place for it, and things of that nature. So not much that we can do here other than be prepared for something. And the next thing that I want to talk about is intentional injury by a person, and that just further breaks down this column right here. It just breaks it down to homicides and suicides. Now, we have 453 homicides, which means 453 people are being killed throughout the year while they're working. And 304 people are committing suicide throughout the year as well, during work or work hours or whenever the company is directing their work. And so suicides ended up increasing 11% from 2017 to 2018, while the homicides kind of stayed the same. And I think this goes without saying, but if you need help, say something. We have assistance for both union and non-union positions seeking help, and it's there for a reason. As far as homicides, that to me, I think that's alarmingly high. Currently, we're working on a workplace violence program, and that won't change much for you as an employee, but it just means that we'll have a plan in place and be prepared in the event of an act of violence between coworkers, vendor, an ex-employee, or just some random person off the street who wants to do something stupid. So we're currently looking into that, and as far as controls, that's pretty much it. The workplace violence program and utilizing an assistance program from our health insurance or the Carpenters Members Assistance Program. Those are two great places to start. I'm sure you're aware, but there are some stigmas on mental health which can make people it can keep people from coming forward and seeking help. But that being said, if you need help, say something. If you're on the fence, I believe that the assistance programs are 100% anonymous, and just to give everybody, you guys, the most detailed information, we'll follow up with more information in a separate email detailing the assistance, whether it's for union or non-union positions. Okay, exposure to harmful substances or environments. So this is our last topic as well, and this one has a total of 355 deaths associated with it. And at first glance, when you read all the titles down below, exposure to electricity, radiation or noise, temperature extremes, air and water pressure changes, etc., and all those different topics, it appears to be a health issue rather than a safety issue. A lot of these things don't come from a lack of guarding or a lack of PPE. It's just a health monitoring issue, overexposure to different things, and that's okay. It is that way. It is more leaning towards the health, but our program focuses on both the health and the safety, not just the one. And as we break it down further, we can see exactly what this consists of. So we're focused on the far left topic again here, and we have protections in place for the other groups, which is why we're not going to be talking about those. But the first topic that we don't often talk too much about, if at all. So this is another very polarized topic, and it's one of those difficult conversations, but I believe that we need to have that difficult conversation. The fact that 305 people overdosed or died from a non-medical use of drugs or alcohol in the workplace is too high. And this year, the 2018 data, is the 6th consecutive increase of this topic. Put your personal views aside on drug use and overdoses and things like that, and just think from a company standpoint. Having an employee who might be at risk for something like this, it's a number that it keeps on increasing. It's alarmingly high, and we need to take steps to prevent drug and alcohol abuse from reaching our company. And as I said before, right now at this moment, we don't have an issue or have ever had an issue with these three topics, but we have the chance to have an issue with them. So controls for prevention, this is going to sound weird, but the controls for this are as simple and as complicated as they can be. We can make it very detailed and very specific and make it very complicated, or it can be pretty simple. Just like before, using the members' assistance programs and seeking assistance for addiction are great places to start. In addition, we're working on a drug and alcohol policy, which we will be rolling out shortly, that focuses on the protocols for handling these issues before they strike in the workplace, before they create a safety concern, before they create a personal safety concern, not just a safety concern for your coworkers, but mainly for you or whoever is affected by it. And as of now, there's not much more that we can do until we get that program in place, other than to talk about it and begin providing assistance for the employees who seek it. So I'm sure a lot of you might have a question, why? Why are we talking about this? These things never happen here, so why did you choose these three topics? And why is this important to us as a company if we don't have an issue with it? And they're all very easy for me to answer. The first why is simple. I started to touch base on it already, but we have the opportunity for all of these deaths and these statistics to apply to us at any given moment. We've been lucky and fortunate enough in the 40 years we've been in business that we've never had an issue, and we don't fit into one of these statistics, and I hope that we never do. I hope I never have to report something like this to OSHA. But regardless, tomorrow is a new day, and anything can happen, and I just wanted to shed light on these topics to introduce to you what could potentially happen. So I chose these three topics because they're increasing each year. It's not just a one-time thing where, okay, this year was high and then the next year it went back down. They're increasing, and from what I have read from recent reports, it doesn't seem like they're going to go down next year. They might stay the same, or if they do go down, it's not going to be a lot, but right now they are projected to go up again. And lastly, this is important because it furthers our mission, our safety mission of sending you home the same way you came into work, so you can see the people you love and you can do the things you love. And as I said, worksite safety is important, but off-the-job safety is important too. And that's something that we're going to start to focus on more. Safety doesn't stop when you walk out the door. Safety continues. And another thing is, I just want to bring up some numbers to you. So, transportation deaths, the total deaths we talked about, 1,501 deaths were associated with that. And then we covered 757 deaths of workplace violence and 305 non-medical use of drugs or alcohol, which totals up to 2,563 deaths in 2018 that were avoidable. Some easier than others to avoid. And I just want to put this into perspective for you because, as you know, every number needs a comparison. So working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 1 year, you will work 2,080 hours. And if you work 2,080 hours, given those numbers, about 1.25 people died each hour that you worked in 2018. The actual number is closer to 1.23, but I rounded up to 1.25. So thinking about back to our why with safety, it's not just compliance, but it's doing the right thing and making sure that each of you can go home at the end of the day to be with those you love and to enjoy the things you love. And I talk about these items not to try to sway you or influence you, but I'm just simply looking at the deaths that occur at work and how we can avoid them to make sure that they never reach our company or you and your families. All right, so sources. I mean, everything needs to be accurate. Everything needs to be, reliable, especially when talking about statistics like this. So the sources that we gathered, I gathered this information from is the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and then they get their information and all of their reports from all of these different sources: state follow-ups, police reports, workers' compensation reports. And something to keep in mind is that there are companies who are required by law to report deaths. So, for instance, if a company reported a death to OSHA, it might also have a police report. It could have a state compensations report, a toxicology report, a coroner report. It could have multiple reports associated with that death. So that's why there are so many more sources of data for these deaths than there are actual deaths. Okay, last but not least, if you have a safety concern and you don't want to tell me or a committee member, we now have an email that you can use, and it is safety@giffininterior.com. Now, this is only monitored by me, and anything you send in will be kept confidential. And I'm the only one who will ever see it. Now, if it requires a response, I will respond to you from my Giffin email. But you can just email me. You can, if you want to attach a picture of something, you can send me that as well. And it's just a way to open up another line of communication to report hazards. So as always, think safety and work safely. And you can see our nice little logo that Dustin made for us with our custom slogan. So whoever came up with this, our first Safe and Sound Week, thank you, because I love using it. It was anonymous, so I have no idea who did it, but thank you, thank you, thank you. And as always, if you have any questions or concerns, please grab me, please ask me. I will get you an answer as soon as I can, and hopefully I have an answer for you. But that's it. So don't forget to do the attendance sheet. Don't forget to take that quiz. Don't forget that if you get all the answers right, you get entered to win a $200 gift card. So make sure you do that, and think safety, work safely.